Hi, Dean again. Dean's video diary. Just talking to the camera. Someone watches it, fine. If they don't, still a thing that happened. I don't normally wear a hat when I do this, but today is special because I am. Two reasons. One, if you look at my YouTube channel, it's just me sat here looking like this. They all look exactly the same. So I thought I'd mix it up with attire, accessories. That's the word, isn't it? And also, it's got a bit darker now before I filmed this. Normally film a bit earlier because I'm outside. So now I'm using my fluorescent light up there, and it sort of really makes my head glow. Look at that. And so I just cover that up, make it look a little bit more human. This is my hat. I have 3 of these, and I wouldn't normally buy this type of hat. I wouldn't normally buy any hat, but when you go out in the sunshine, when such things occur, you need head protection, especially when you're relatively bald. But I've got a massive skull. It's a Burnett family trait, apparently, and so very few hats fit me. It's one of the only ones that does. Marks and Spencer's, I think. Discontinued now, of course. So today's been sat here, writing stuff, replying to things, doing messages, doing my assignments, deadlines, and so on and so on. It's been a weirdly nostalgic day in terms of stuff that has happened. Firstly, I got someone tweeted me saying, because I did a big rant yesterday about the weird things I've done as part of radio interviews and stuff. So linked me to a tweet about a guy saying, he's a historian. I'll link to it in the description. And saying this worst interview he had on radio was he had to debate the location of the Battle of Hastings, and he's a professional historian, and the other guy came to him in a vision. And so yes, I have made similar, shall we say, I've had similar experiences. I was asked to go on BBC Wales after the Higgs boson was discovered to debate it, because it wasn't the thing, it was a matter of opinion, this massive scientific discovery, with up against a moon landing denier and Stephen Allen Green from Christian Voice. Remember when he was a bad guy, the main one in the country? Yeah, so Christian fundamentalist and a conspiracy theorist against me, a neuroscientist, discussing one of the biggest physics findings of modern times. I didn't do it. I didn't want to. I thought that would be bad, distressful for me and pointless all round. But then it reminded me of I think my favourite interview I did was on 5 Live. I think it was 5 Live. I won't swear to it. Can't find it online anyway. Where I talk about Professor Canavero. You may remember him. He pops up every now and again. He's the guy who insists he's on the verge of doing a successful human head transplant. Or I like to think of it, a body transplant, because technically you go with the head. And he announced a few years back that he'd done it. Successful head transplant, and it's meant to take 16 hours. It only took 8, half the time. And it was in the Telegraph. It was a big story. 3 paragraphs in, they mentioned it was on cadavers. So how would you define successful in this case? And I was on Radio 5 Live talking about it because it's a brain-based story, and they come to me for stuff like that. And they kept saying it. So isn't there a breakthrough? And I kept saying no, it's not. And they said, he did. They were insistent, he did a successful human head transplant, in 8 hours. And I said it was on cadavers. I think my exact words were, "Give me 5 minutes and a staple gun, and I'll give you the same result." And I haven't really been asked back since. But honestly, I think it was worth it. I'd happily do that again anytime. So yeah, it's Canavero kept insisting many times that human head transplant is imminent in the next 10 years, which is sort of media maverick speak for it's not going to happen, but it'll sound imminent. But by the time we get to that point, you'll have forgotten about it, so I won't have to say I'm wrong. Not that anyone does that anymore, as my video yesterday explained. But he's definitely making it up. I would say, it's my own personal opinion, based on 20 years of neuroscience, that he's making unsustainable claims that you can attach someone else's head onto someone else's body. That would involve, amongst other things, connected 2 separate spinal cords together. The neck here, that's how you control the body. And that is beyond any known science, neuroscientific or otherwise. And if he has perfected the technique to do that, he should be a billionaire overnight if he announces that technology, because we don't know how to do that. We can barely connect 2 damaged nerves from the same person, let alone 2 completely different spinal cords. Him claiming he's perfected this technique is like someone going on the news and saying, "I have invented a cold fusion reactor, limitless energy for all mankind." And they say, oh great, can you tell us how it works? And then they tell you how they've plumbed the toilets into the reactor for the technicians, and which is an important part, but it's not really the main thing, is it? So yeah, so like I'm very wary of that. So if he comes up again anytime soon, he's due another sort of resurgence. Then remember what I said. But another thing that came up was I did an article about why depression and dementia aren't mutually exclusive. You can't have two. Of Cosmic Shambles, I'll put in the link again. And this came about because of the recent documentary about Robin Williams and his final days, and his dealing with Lewy body dementia, arguably the worst dementia if you know the stats behind it and the symptoms. It's really, really horrific, and there's no way to sugarcoat that. But it's sort of even when if that first came about, like there was a sort of weird tiny little corner of the internet which. Well, I have a certain history with the Robin Williams thing. Like I'm a professional writer now, and I know how much of a privilege it is to be able to say that. But it's an immense privilege. It's very lucky. I know many people who would love to do what I do and be where I am. But I'm here partly because Robin Williams died the way he did. In that, I was writing for the Guardian at the time, and I've told the story before. But I came in the office one morning, sat down, opened my laptop in August, and news had broken a few hours earlier that Robin Williams had died, by suicide. Terrible, terrible news. And then he's been out a few hours already because of the time zone differences, and. There's already the stuff like people saying he must be in his depression because he was known to have that. He had a lot of demons, as they call it, and also he was selfish. Although more right-wing pundits say, it was so selfish to do that to your family and people who love you. And I know it's not how it works. It isn't how depression works. That's not how it's ever worked. You don't see things that way when you're in the grips of depression. So I did that. I've seen that plenty of times because it's not that uncommon for someone high profile to end their own life, and that's usually the reaction that happens. Happened with Gary Speed a few years before, the Welsh football manager, former player, I think. Not into sport, I don't know, but I just sort of got a bit annoyed, so I just fired off this quick blog, my Guardian blog, which I had at the time, and put out there saying depression, suicide aren't selfish. Stop saying that. And it was read like 2 million times in the space of 2.5 days, and it still remains my most popular piece of writing ever. And at the time I was actually talking with publishers to potentially do a book because my blog was going well, like I was becoming known as a writer. But there's millions of people reading this thing overnight and becoming well known like that really kicked things into much higher gear, and I got my book deal put through, and so here I am now. Would I be here where I am now if Robin Williams hadn't died the way he did? I don't know. I might have made it eventually. I was already talking to publishers, but it would have been a slow progress, and maybe I would never have got as far as I did. So there's an argument to be said that I owe my position to Robin Williams and the way he went, and that's not. It's bittersweet, isn't it? But so then it came out later on that he had Lewy body dementia, but. So there's some people who seem to think that, he had dementia, so everything you said about depression is wrong. You can't apply it here. And well, you can quite easily. Depression is still a thing. Doesn't matter who has it. It actually exists, and all the stuff I said about it is, I would still stand by. I mean, more nuanced argument these days. This was like 6 years ago. But so it's been an odd one, sort of taking over old memories and old stuff like I've dealt with before. Like it just seemed to pop up today. It seemed to be the day for it. And then someone retweeted one of my most popular tweets, just that was from 6 years ago too. It seems to be that just something about today seems to be dragging up the past, I suppose. On a more positive note, I think I was talking with publishers at the time. Then I remembered why one of the publishers I had a different book pitch rather than my first book pitch. No one bought it because it wasn't a good pitch. It was my first ever time doing one. But one certain publisher, a big name publisher, who has since published one of my books, so there's no animosity there. No, it's very much water under the bridge. They rejected my proposal, and for my favourite reason ever, they said, "We really like the idea for a book, but we've spoken to the marketing people, and they're not sure how we'd get it on the one show to promote it, so we're going to decline." Which, I mean, at the time I realised that's just them trying to fob me off in a nice way, trying to say we don't want it, but we don't want to upset you or tell you you're a bad writer. We'd like to hear more from you in the future. But it was such a, it concocted this idea that this massive publishing house, they choose their books based on the booking policy of the one show, which I don't know, it doesn't seem like a sustainable business model for me. But I still haven't been on the one show. But I've been on Sunday Brunch. That's the same thing, isn't it? So I think one of the problems I have with these videos, I never know how to end them, so I'm just not gonna.